Okay, hi everyone. My name is Paleta. I'm a movement artist, choreographer. I do transpersonal coaching and artistic development. And I'm here today and having an incredible conversation with another incredible artist who is going to introduce himself right now.
Yeah, my name's Andrew Ferguson, aka Nominee, aka Outrage. I've been a DJ and a producer for nearly 25 years now. I'm also a business owner of an online education platform called Education and Base.
Amazing. So as you can see already, we are multifaceted and multi-talented individuals.
Yep.
We are here today because a couple of weeks ago, or actually months ago, was the first time that we had a conversation over Zoom together.
Mm-hmm.
We connected because I absolutely fell in love with your music.
Thank you.
And as a mover, as a dancer, it just really moved me, and I really felt connected to your music. So I was like, oh my God, maybe you would be interested in having a conversation about your music, about the way you produce and what it does to me as someone who then makes or feels an interpretation of the sound. So we had a conversation and it was amazing that we just organically started talking about what we do. We then continued on to have another meeting like 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that was our second one in person.
Mm-hmm.
And after that meeting, we both were like, oh, we wish we recorded that conversation.
Yeah, some good stuff. Yeah.
So that's why we're here today, really, because we felt like it's really potent what we spoke about, and to be able to share that maybe with our audiences and make that link between someone who feels music through the body and someone who creates music in the studio. And you might want to add on to that.
Yeah, and I think one of the main points that we spoke about the other day was the freedom of being an artist and not feeling like you have to conform to kind of commercial or what's hot and stuff. So kind of just feeling that you can do what you want as an artist without having to do what others may want you to do. You know, having that freedom was important, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely where anything that you shared with me in our last conversations, where you're like, well, I want to create music the way I want to, even if there's not a niche, not a genre as such that exists, but I want to be able to create freely. And that's exactly how I experience it in my field as a mover. I've never wanted, well, that's a lie. In the beginning, I guess I wanted to be able to fit into a certain style. But then my heart was always, well, there's something of its own that wants to be created, that wants to be expressed. And there's no genre, there's no niche for it as such. So we really connected on that as well. It was amazing to hear from someone who's in the same, I guess, industry-ish, but in a different element, in a different realm.
Yeah, because I think it's important you want to be accepted as an artist. And like you said initially, we all probably want a certain level of success, whatever that means. And it's hard because you need to feel like there's a home for what you do, whether you're free to do it or you're conforming to what you think other people might want. So I think one thing that I think you'll agree we're trying to promote is that you can pave your own way and you can create your own home for your art. But it takes, it's hard work, it's consistency, and it's belief in what you're doing as an artist. And that is hard. It's really hard to deal with because in society, we want to feel like we're being accepted. Social media, we want that security of, and our egos to be stroked for the most part, right, as human beings. And I think we're on the same page with regards to just paving our own way as artists and again creating our own home and our own place to do what we want to do.
Yeah, I love how you said that. And I think that was another thing that made me like why we probably initially connected so organically and the conversation just flows so nicely, because when you really dedicate and devote yourself to your art the way you want to create and the way you want to express yourself, you will attract like-minded individuals or people who are on a similar path in a different way but with the same intention. And I feel like that's what's happening as well with us. And maybe we can share a little bit with how we linked in the first place. I think someone showed me music of yours from the Nominee Project in 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, someone I met in Camden actually.
Okay.
And it's a way of how I connect with people. Like, I share with them music that I really like. They share music back with me, so you get an understanding of. I don't know. It's like a little insight into your world when you share music with someone. So I received "Hide and Seek." The track was.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, wow. And then obviously the whole project inside Nominee, I went into it and I was like, wow, so many tracks on there. Just really like. I felt them through my whole body. And a year later or so, I did a project to, was pretty last minute. I just filmed something in a studio to the track To the Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I then kind of sent it to you to, you never know. You send it out and they might want to have a look to whoever produced the music, so you can see as well what happened. And then you shared with me that actually recently, or in the recent years, that many people who are movers and dancers, and they are really connecting with your music. Do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's crazy. All of a sudden on Instagram, I was being tagged or just searching the Nominee hashtag just to see what's out there, and to my surprise, there was hundreds of people moving in different ways to my music, from belly dancers to contemporary dance to pole dancers, all different countries, different settings. And it just made me think about my own music in a different way as well, because remember we spoke about kind of being accepted into different areas. For the most part, as a DJ, I've produced music for people to dance to. But then the Nominee stuff is quite, it's an interesting sound because you can play it at a festival or a club and people can get down to it, and you can meditate to it. So I found this really, or move to it in any way you want. So I found this really interesting balance. And I think a lot of that comes from the bass, the heavy bass, because, what we call bass music, whether it be dubstep, grime, drum and bass, it's all about the bass. And on a sound system, whether it's slow or deep, if it's got that low frequency, that energy, people can get down to it. And obviously I found a balance with the vibe and just what I was doing with it, that people could tap into it in different ways. But yeah, just seeing my music being interpreted in different ways and how people connected with it. I mean, I've had people sending me videos of them doing headstand meditation to my music, and then I've played it at Outlook Festival to thousands of people, the same track, people getting down to it and raving to it. And then, people like yourself kind of adding some amazing moves to it just blew me away. And it gave me I wanted to do something different with my music, because I felt it was limited to what I was doing. I was making music, obviously for myself, for the DJs, for myself to play, for a record label. But seeing people move to it from different worlds, like, how do you even know who I am? Like, on Spotify, my music's in like tantric sex playlists and yoga playlists, and I'm like, how are people finding out about this music? And it just really opened my eyes to want to do something different with my music. And it's a shame that, especially where I come from musically, there's no real connections with people who move and dance to our music, and vice versa. And I think that's obviously a big part of why we're here talking now, is, why not have that connection and bring it together to create something even more beautiful from the two forms of art that stand alone. Of course, you can move to one of my tracks and that becomes something new, but working together and coming together it doesn't happen enough, I don't think. Not in my circles. You know, the producers and the movers don't come together, and I just feel if they did, that some amazing things can happen. And I'm hoping that, you know, what we're doing here can be the start of something similar, because it's art and movement complements music, of course. And I think there needs to be more collaboration around it, I think. Especially, again, from where I come from. It does happen. Of course, musicians collaborate with dancers and stuff, but certainly not where I come from. Not that much.
I love all the points that you made. There was a few things. And that last one that you said about like the collaboration and actually really making the connection. I think from a place of where the position that I come from, let's say from a dancer background, for us it's always like, let's say we bring social media into the element. I'm going to tag this artist who created this music. Number one, for me, it's mainly to credit the artist. So people, when they resonate with the sound that I use, they'll be like, oh, they go and check the artist out, right? Often in our position as dancers, it's quite sad because sometimes we just don't necessarily get the credits that we deserve in the whole industry, to be honest. So for us, sometimes it's like there's a huge barrier in reaching out to artists at times, and then being willing to actually collaborate with us as movers, as dancers, because we experience such a big barrier at times. And I think it's beautiful that you are here and making those points as well, because it encourages, hopefully and potentially, more artists from the production side of creating the sound, of creating the music, to really feed as well of the energy that movers and dancers bring to it. And exactly what you said, like we're going to maybe talk a little bit later about it, what we might put together, but then really create this unique energy, this unique collaboration and connection to create something that feeds from both sides, which I think, is something we're both really interested in and is expanding for both sides. I think, as you said, you wanted to do something different with your art. And for me, like, sound is such a big element, and it takes me, I'm going to speak a little bit about it, what your sound like does to me. I've told you before, but for me, it's like exactly what you mentioned earlier. It's in the bass, it's incredible what happens for me physically. Like I connect to music when I can feel it, like going up my spine from the base all the way up through my spine and then into my extremities. That's when I know, oh shit, okay, that is something there. It's like it takes over me, and your sound has done this over and over again. So even more so, it's an honor and just like an amazing collaboration that we're building and have here. So thank you.
Oh yeah, no, thank you for the moves, because again, it makes me see and hear my music in a different way, and that's amazing. Like every time I see a different video with somebody moving to it, doesn't matter that even if it's the same song over and over, it's got a different meaning, and that's powerful as well, because you can just hear the music on its own. And of course, everybody will attach their own meaning to music. They have a story. It could be a soundtrack of a part of their life or an experience they're going through. When they listen to that track, it becomes a part of their life diary, if you like. But the fact that I can hear To the Sky, for example, that's probably one of the most tagged videos of people moving to my music. And every time I see and hear it, I just hear it in such a different way that it just never gets boring, because it's somebody's own interpretation and it's come together to create something brand new.
Do you want to share a little bit about, obviously you have Outrage and then you have Nominee. Do you want to share about like these two projects?
Outrage, I was a jungle kid, so jungle music when I was in my teens, and that was me, jungle drum and bass. By the time I was 16, I was touring the world. I was touring Europe at 16, and 19, I was going over to America as a jungle drum and bass DJ. And that was my love. That was my first proper love of music. Before that was a bit of hip hop and, some reggae and stuff. But I was a jungle drum and bass DJ, then a producer, and I did that for 10, 15 years, touring the world at living the dream basically, and that high octane, that energy. And the outrage thing ended up being, because I'm a believer of, as an artist, having a signature sound or a signature style that people can identify as yours. It's okay that you might be doing a certain genre or a subgenre, but putting your stamp on it. And I guess that's the same with movement, right? It's okay to imitate and be inspired by someone, but what can you do differently? What can you bring to the table that's gonna say that, okay, that it's kind of like that, but no, that's you. I can see that, I can hear that, that's your vibe. So the outrage thing became quite dark and hard, and I guess it was outrage by name, outrage by nature. At the time, I was young, I was living the party lifestyle, running around the world. I was a bit of an animal, drinking and partying, and it was literally, the music was outrageous and hard and dark, and you know, I guess I had anger issues and mental health issues, so I guess it kind of all fitted with what I was doing in my life. It represented that. And then after about 10 or 15 years, I was spending a lot of time in America, living there back and forward from the UK, and I was going through quite a dark time mentally, and with the alcohol and binge drinking and stuff like that. And I just felt there was a need for change. It had to be, because I was going down a really, really bad path. And I returned back to the UK, returned back to education, because I left school with no qualifications, because I found a love of music, and that was me. That's what I wanted to do. But I returned back to education to do a master's degree in advanced music technology. I got onto the master's program through my industry experience, and for me, being at university, that was crazy, because I never dreamt of going to university, and I did a master's degree. That was crazy. But there was a lot of self-reflection and maybe a premature midlife crisis. You know, I felt like I don't want to be running around the world living this party lifestyle, and what else is there for me out there? So I was spending a bit of time in Thailand as well after America, and actually had a project out there, a music school project, just before the economy crash around about 2008, 2009. And just spending a lot of time in Thailand. I was still very kind of outrageous then, but I found a love for Zen and Zen philosophy. So obviously being in Thailand, you know, Buddhist and whatnot, and I was sampling little bits of Buddhist monks, like bits of words and phrases. This was as outrage, but it didn't quite fit the outrageous music. And I found a love, as I say, for the culture, the Buddhism. I'm not Buddhist, but I love Zen philosophy. And I was intrigued by instrumentation from Asia, and scales and musicality, and the instrument, as I say, the instrumentation, and started to incorporate that into the outrage stuff, but it didn't quite fit. So I started the Nominee Project, and it was the opposite to outrage. You've got this hard, dark, outrageous thing, and then you've almost got this meditative side of what I was doing. So it was kind of almost the opposites. And yeah, that's kind of it. I guess it was the new me, where I kind of found a new energy to stop drinking. I haven't drank alcohol for 10 years, and it's that kind of Nominee is 10 years this year, and I haven't drank alcohol for 10 years. So it's almost like Nominee became that new lease of life, that new life, and it came out in the music. It was meditative. It was still quite heavy and deep, but yeah, it's just really interesting how that happened.
That's amazing. I think it's really cool. I want to highlight a point that you said earlier on as well, is that, you know, it's fine to be inspired, and it's fine to like take on from other people and like be motivated and see something that you resonate with. But then what do you bring to the table? How do you make it yours? I think that's one thing that has been on my personal path so important. Like, I study loads of different things. I've studied so many different dance styles, but it's always been, how do I integrate that into my own and not just ride the wave of that's how you do it. And for some people it works, you know, and it's fine. But I think there's something innate in certain artists, I guess, that really feel like I have something unique to add on. And as an artist, I believe like that's what you should be doing, because otherwise you're just a copycat. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that we can like really let our listeners know, like, don't like try out, see what you bring to the table. We all have our unique gifts and talents and our strengths and weaknesses, and how do we integrate those with what we learned from someone else, or see something that motivates us or feel inspired by. So always add on your own touch, and that doesn't happen overnight. I want to say that as well. Like, it can take time for this to happen, and to understand what is your unique like blueprint and your kind of mark, as you said. So don't feel rushed. It will develop over time. Just be dedicated to, as much as you invest in studying something different, I feel like is as much as you probably want to invest in developing your own, you know. And I
was just going to add to that. Whenever I talk to somebody about a signature sound or their own style, they think it has to be this drastic, different thing. It could be subtleties that you can't quite put your finger on, but you just know it's that person, the way they move, the way their sound is. It doesn't have to be this really innovative style that's game changing. And I think that's what people struggle to comprehend, is what can I do differently? Everything's been done, it's what is there left for me to do? I can't innovate this thing. And I always say with music, it's just these tiny processes that you can't really single out, but when it comes together, it's you. And if you just do that every time, it will become what people can resonate with. And maybe similar to movement, I'm not sure. Would you say it doesn't have to be drastic, right? It could be these just subtleties.
Absolutely. It's subtle. And it's also, I like what you said, is the moment you go out and start to look for it, you almost block what naturally would come out of you. When you start to try so hard to make it your unique thing because you gotta do this in your own way, then it becomes another task, and it puts pressure on you. And that's why I said, like, it might not happen over time, but the more you allow all this information to be processed, to be integrated into, when I talk for a mover, into your body, into your unique anatomy and how you are built, everybody is built so different, and then let that process, and again, invest time in researching within yourself. And also I think a lot of it for me then comes back to what I call practice your calm, execute your quality, meaning that you are consciously spending time in your inner world, finding that calm and finding a connection to what is truly energetically aligned for you, and then you let that come out, which is the execute your quality part, your unique quality, the way you can shine if you want, or the way you execute those gifts.
That's really interesting, because similar to what I say to people, like, our brain responds to stimuli. We have to feed our brain with experiences to allow creativity to come out. Like, there's no such thing as an original idea. Everything that we do comes from our experiences and our feelings, our emotions, the things we allow into our brain. So I'm always saying to music producers, don't just listen to the music you want to make. Go and listen to all different stuff, even the things you don't think you like, and try and find some inspiration from all those different places, or just let it in. Like you say, it's like soak it up, and then it comes out in ways that, and at times that you don't expect it. You'll be creating something and you won't necessarily know where that idea came from, but it came from somewhere. It always comes from somewhere. And it's like when artists struggle with writer's block or creator's block, it's because they're not necessarily allowing that stimuli to come in, and they think they have to create the idea. And then really, it's like what you say, it's tapping into the experiences that we've had. But you need to allow yourself to have those experiences. And some people are quite one track. They're like, right, this is what I want to do. This is the only thing that can inspire me. And it just becomes this kind of, like you say, a copycat thing, and you're not allowing these other things to come in and inspire you. And actually, originators of anything, they've all tapped into their kind of upbringing, their experiences, and that's why they're unique, and why they're doing their thing. And if you're only looking to them, then I think you've just got to allow yourself to kind of experience different things in all walks of life, because that's what's going to come out in the creativity.
Yeah, I was going to add that as well. Like, even within like as a music producer or as a mover, as a dancer, don't just stay within the dance realm or within the music realm. What other experiences in life, what other realms are you allowing yourself to fully experience that then contribute to your creativity, to your artistry, and how you express yourself creatively in whatever realm you then choose. So yeah, that's definitely a good one to add on as well. Like, don't just stick within your niche, but allow yourself to expand and be it in different, for me, in different movement disciplines, go to different countries, experience different cultures, all of that, having conversations with different people, collaborate in whatever way with other artists, or have conversations like this.
Yep.
So yeah, great.
It amazed me when we spoke last that how much in common two worlds have. I guess artists, right? Creators. I think there's a lot of connective tissue that, like you say, like if I'm only ever talking to music producers or DJs, you need to kind of just talk to anybody that creates, or just anybody, because they can inspire you, right? But certainly other creatives, because we have a lot in common. And I think, like you say, just to speak to someone from outside of your circles can be a huge inspiration. And who knows what can come from that as well, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, sometimes it takes a bit, like I can say I'm not necessarily someone that goes out and makes first steps in like, oh, so I do this, do you want to see what I do? I'm working on it to be a bit more like, but I'm more someone, if someone approaches me and I feel like they're genuinely interested in what I do, I start to open my doors, I start to open my books, and I let you in. And there's so much I do and have to offer, but I'm not like gonna put it in your face. And I think I reached out to you, and that is another kind of like sign for me how deeply connected I felt to your music, to what you do. And then obviously I also saw how open you are about the themes of mental health and what you personally have been through. And that is something that's we talked about in our last conversation as well. It's another like realm where we really connect, where we're both very passionate about mental health and the well-being aspect of our craft and our medicine, let's call it that, in movement and through music. And yeah, do you want to share kind of a little bit about what you do with your education as an educator, and maybe a little bit of your own story?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we all suffer in some shape or form. It's just we deal with things differently. And I didn't know I had chronic anxiety until recent years. I suffered at school because of it. I didn't succeed at school because I felt stupid. Back then people weren't putting labels on other people, apart from things like dyslexia, learning difficulties. There were no kind of real mental health awareness going on at the time. So yeah, that affected me early on in life, and just becoming aware of it was a huge thing for me, knowing that I had this thing, and okay, it's probably never going to go away, but learning coping mechanisms and ways that I can deal with it. And actually I see my anxiety now as a superpower. I really do. I don't want to get rid of it. It drives me to succeed, and that's an amazing thing. But that awareness done so much for me that my thing is to just let people know that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's a lot of us suffer, and on a regular basis I share what I'm going through with my mental health, but also I'm surviving in life. I'm able to achieve. I can still be an artist. I can still be a dad. I can still be a husband. I can still be a friend. I can still be a business owner. I can still be a record label owner, all with my mental health issues. With anxiety comes paranoia, and then the opposite end, you've got depression. And I suffer from those things on a daily basis, but I guess I'm highly functional because I've allowed myself to be highly functional. It can either defeat me or I can just stand up to it. And I think just letting other people know that that's there, and if I can do it, with no education, without a sob story. I come from poverty, didn't have any money growing up, and I had this thing that I didn't understand that made me struggle with education, but I just found my own way to learn, found my own ways to cope, And I just want to share that with other people, because I think it's important that we're open about mental health and well-being. And it is getting better, you know, it is. But I think certainly a lot of creatives, certainly a lot of musicians and DJs I know suffer real bad. A lot of it's self-inflicted, you know, the party lifestyle. If I'm touring the world, drinking, partying, not sleeping, there's going to be a crash. There's going to be some depression. There's going to be a come down off the back of that. But it's still suffering. And I think, you know, I have a lot of DJs reach out to me, you know, can we have a chat? I'm feeling like this. And, you know, and yes, a lot of it's self-inflicted, but also a lot of it stems from the insecurity of being an artist, you know, that kind of maybe financial struggle, or you're not succeeding like you want to succeed. And yeah, I find a lot of joy in supporting people in a way that kind of can help them on a day-to-day basis, which is why I'm very open about my experiences.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Obviously, we've spoken about it before, but I thought it was like, I love the point that you made, like, in spite of being aware that you suffer from anxiety on a daily basis, you still function, you still able to do all of the things that you say you want to do and succeed in life.
It's tough. It is tough, but yeah.
Yeah. But you're still able to do it. I just want to reassure that point that anyone that is listening and feel like I can't do it because of that, there's still ways to do it. And obviously feeling supported is incredible, and that you offer that support to others and other artists, as you said as well, like these insecurities that add on. And being an artist and the creative, there's always this competitive aspect to it, to compare yourself to others on what they do and how they do. Definitely have been through that as well in my own way. And at some point to really find, is a practice to find the courage to, again, really stick to, this is how I do what I do, and stick to it. And that feels right for me.
Yeah. But you see it a lot in the movement world as well, right? With mental health and
yeah. Like a lot of people that I coach as well, they come from a background in dance, and it's actually, it gets to a point where it's very toxic, especially when you come from an institutional, like gone through dance school and that stuff. It's quite toxic because you are so trimmed as well on how you look, you know, the aesthetics and who does what better and who has got the better technique. So everything comes down to a lot of aesthetics and outward experience rather than what do I contribute, and not being encouraged within your own unique gifts and talents and your skills and what you bring to the table, but really more trying to fit something or someone into that very system from sometimes a young age.
Yeah, I think it's hard, right? Because I think, like we said earlier, everybody wants to succeed, and for the most part, the initial kind of comprehension of success is mainstream, earning loads of money. You know, if you talk about music or dance, it's like that real popularity, loads of followers on social media. And I think for the most part, when people enter into music or whatever, that's kind of initially what their aspirations are, to have that kind of mainstream success. And I think people don't find the confidence in kind of, let me do my thing in case of the fear of not being accepted or it not being successful. Because it's tough, because I guess, especially in music, I don't all the time see producers that have got such a distinct sound that are successful, and that might put off somebody coming in to take risks if especially within music, a lot of it does sound the same, and maybe in dance people move the same. The majority is this thing that, okay, we need to be a part of this to be successful. And I guess it's really difficult for anybody coming through, you know, to really tap into what they want to do when they want that success. You know, because there's no guarantees anyway, but if I take a risk and experiment, maybe there's less of a guarantee that I succeed. And I think that's the fear that stops a lot of people doing what they truly want with art. Certainly with music, for sure.
Yeah. And I think Well, I trust that even this and the way we talk about it can be a catalyst for those people who feel that way, but they don't necessarily have the courage just yet to go for it, or kind of like trying to keep themselves in line with that. And I think there's also reasonable, if you're just fresh to the industry, new into what you're doing, sometimes it is like that, you know, you kind of ride the wave and understand also to eliminate what is that you don't want to do, because maybe you don't have a super clear vision just yet of what exactly is that you want to do. So you eliminate what you don't want to do by having awful experiences sometimes in the industry or in jobs or whatever. So you eliminate, and then you also just, kind of clarify your own vision as you go along, and then find the courage to go through with that.
Yeah.
I'd love to touch on one more thing that might lead us into make a little announcement of something that we want to do together. Yeah. And to bring it back into sound and movement and how we experience it in our own processes is really like I love how we last time spoke a lot about energy and vibration. And for me as a mover, it's been a couple of years where I just really understood, again, to make that point, to shift the focus from the outer appearance, so from the aesthetics, into the inner world experience. Truly, how does it make me feel? Where does the energy come from? How do I feel the energy move in my own body? And how does the sound support that process? And the more I'm diving into it, the more I'm allowing myself to really let that be my ocean of research and experience at the moment. The more clear it becomes and the more connected I feel. And which also makes me realize that when I tried it in a different way, when I tried to fit into a certain style, or when I tried to make it fit into something else other than what I'm doing at the moment, it felt so off because it didn't come from an energetic foundation. And I want to kind of hear from your side as well, from music production. We talked about energy and frequency and how that resonates in what you do and what I do.
Yeah, I mean, over the years of DJing, you see how music takes over people's bodies. You see it, and it does. I mean, and it's amazing what you say, because if you can give somebody that freedom or that confidence to be free to move and connect with the music, it's an amazing thing. People do it, and I think unfortunately a lot of the time it's under the influence of drugs or alcohol, where maybe inhibitions are down and people just lock into it, and they're not worried about what other people think. I've seen that over the years when people are just moving, eyes are closed, and that there is like I say, the drug thing that supports that in that way, but
that's mainly in raving culture.
And raving culture, so it would be an amazing thing to encourage. And what I'm saying is, if you could get rid of that kind of side of it, which is of course not condoned at all, and give people that in its purest form, where they can just tap into it naturally and just connect with the music and just move in a way that they just feel to move without worrying about what people think, which you do see in a rave. If people can just tap into that organically, that'd be an amazing thing. Because, and it's not to say everybody, I know people that, of course, that just go out and let the music take over their body, and it's the most amazing thing to see. It's just people just moving in any old way that they see fit at the time. It's just literally the music takes over, and a lot of that is the frequencies. And you have sound systems where you've got the lows, the mids, and the highs. The lows is that kind of heavy thing that, like you say, can can take over and transport through your body. And then you have the mids and the high frequencies where the energy comes from, and that whole full frequency thing can just take you on a journey if you allow it to. But I guess a lot, like you say, a lot of the time people don't feel they can be free to move like that. of fear for being judged, maybe.
Yeah. There's a lot of like the judgment and the self-judgment often as well, and like sometimes not even necessarily like being judged by someone else, but even self-judgment and giving yourself the permission to express yourself freely in this way. And I want to tap into something what you mentioned a bit earlier on, where it's like it's coming up to the 10-year anniversary of Nominee, 10 years of not drinking alcohol. And for me as well, like I stopped drinking like when I was 19, when I lived 18, when I lived in New York as well. And for me, like even from a younger age, I started going out very early. I'm not going to say the age, we don't inspire anyone, but it was more like, it was exactly that experience. There's something so unique about being in a club and then having the music play, and it's such a like, oh my God, I can just like explore, and the sound system, and it gives me that freedom. That's all I wanted. I didn't go necessarily to drink. Of course, down the line, there was a few experiences, but yeah, that was, and then living in New York, where it's all about, you learn about the culture, you learn about the dances and everything behind it, the history behind it, by going out, by going into these places and experience the sound and the dancers, originators of certain cultures and dances. So that's where that for me came from as well. And from a dancer background, it's like if we have a battle or if there's an event, like everyone is kind of encouraged to dance anyway. But what I then observe is sometimes to really allow yourself to tap into pure freedom and not think like, because I'm a dancer, I'm expected to dance, you know, and show my moves and show how good I am. But really tap into that freedom of letting yourself go and be there for the experience in itself, and for the sound to let that take over your body in a different way, or, you know, and also not feeling pressured to dance all the time. Sometimes you just exactly like tune into this meditative state where you're like, oh wow, it's a complete different experience right now than being super active.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, I come from sound system culture, and as I say, you see it. You see people just, I think when rave first became a thing back in the day, it was people's opportunity to just switch off from the hustle of life. And, you know, you'd go to a rave and it would be different people, doctors, lawyers, you know, all people from all different walks of life coming together and just letting their inhibitions go. And I think you need that. You need to be able to switch off from the craziness. You know, my thing unfortunately was alcohol.
Yeah,
it was right, I need to switch off for a bit, I need to reset the buttons, let me have a drink. But the drink became binge drinking, and I got comfortable with switching off, and I wanted to stay in that moment longer, so I'd keep drinking, and that's dangerous. And I think then medication was a thing as well, but meditation, I tried the medication and the meditation, I've tried it all, therapy. But yeah, now I've learned to be with myself in my head, and I can let myself go in other ways, beating up the heavy bag, Muay Thai or whatever, you know. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I think giving people that kind of opportunity to let themselves go from judgment and the kind of restraints of kind of day-to-day life that kind of we put on ourselves but are there anyway in the world we live in, you know. It just, I think it's an amazing thing to give people that.
That's, I think, a beautiful kind of introduction and slide over into sharing something that we want to create together and collaborate on, which exactly is kind of with the intention to, one, really fuse those two worlds that we just spoke about, like from a music aspect, for you to be able to expand your art and the way you create beyond of how you've been maybe producing music so far, and for from a movement side to create spaces where people can truly tap beyond what is expected of them, beyond self-expectation, beyond feeling like, oh, I have to show up and do this and do that, but really allow yourself to creatively express yourself through movement, being taken by the sound and the music. So yeah, shall we let them know what's kind of coming? Not too much details yet, because there's a couple of things that are still in to be confirmed and everything. But the idea we're going to share, right?
Yeah. So the idea, I guess, in a nutshell, is for me, even as a performer, you know, to have the freedom to feed off of movement, and when you DJ, you have tracks and you mix from one track into another. And yeah, you know, there's an element of reading the crowd or directing the crowd with the music and the energy. But our idea is for me to take that a bit more granular, where I have sounds that are pre-made, that are not in the form of an entire track, but in the moment, to the movement and the atmosphere that we're in, is for me to compose on the fly that would be a collaboration of what I'm feeling from the movement and what the movement's feeling from the music, and for that to come together to create something new and unique. And who knows where it will go musically. Obviously there'll be kind of pre-made fragments that are kind of individual that can come together, but the whole thing will feed off of the energy that's in the room, the whole vibe. And I just think that would be an amazing kind of thing to create something unique every time it's done, you know, because it would really depend on the space, the time of the day, the music, the people. And yeah, that's the idea in a nutshell, really. But to give people, like you say, the freedom to just move as they please as well, without any kind of constraints or rules, and the two just feed each other and create something wonderful.
Yeah, so I guess it's without giving, again, too much details, but we will in time when we're ready with it. But it's an open invitation to people who, you know, it can be movers, it can be anyone that wants to express themselves more freely through movement, who are absolutely loving the connection to sound and allowing themselves to dive deeper and really open-minded into what sound can do for you, to experience that in a safe space, because it will be non-judgmental. There will be some guidance on what we potentially can do and explore as a group, you individually. But we will be giving out informations as soon as we have everything confirmed. It will be somewhere in London, and we're very excited about this, because I feel like we're creating something very special and a beginning of a new pathway of something.
Exactly that. Exciting.
And I think it's cool to just share where people can individually find us as well before we finish. I think for me, you can find me on Instagram at Paleta CalmQuality. And from there's links where you find everything else as well.
Yeah, and for me, Instagram, Nominee Sound, so NOMINE Sound, and then if you just Google Nominee, you'll find the other stuff like Facebook and stuff like that. But generally, Instagram is probably the best place to go.
Cool. And yeah, let us know what you feel about this conversation, what your thoughts are on some of the stuff that we spoke about, and if there's anything more that you would want us to dive into. There might be some more parts coming up, but from my side, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.